All right, let f be this function. What is the absolute maximum? Okay, so in order to find the absolute maximum, right, I need to do a couple things, right? And they did throw in the f has no absolute maximum just in case you weren't paying attention, right? So I need to start by finding critical points, right? So critical points are going to be where f prime is 0, f prime doesn't exist, or at included endpoints, right? Any included endpoints. So let's start by finding f prime. I have a high function and I have a low function, right? So my f prime is going to be low d high minus high d low. Draw the line, square the low. So on the top, I'm going to get a 1 minus the natural log of x, and on the bottom, I'm going to get an x squared, right? So f prime is 0 when 1 minus natural log of x, sorry, that's an x, is 0, right? So that's going to be when 1 equals the natural log of x, right? Which means that that's going to be when x is e, right? So that's one critical point, right? F prime doesn't exist when x squared is 0, which would be at x is 0, but that's not in the domain of log, out of the domain of natural log, which brings us to the endpoints. The domain of natural log, right? So the domain is that the inside of the log has to be strictly greater than 0, which is not an included endpoint, right? Not included endpoint, but it is an endpoint that I have to be aware of. So it turns out that this is the only critical point. Now, if they hadn't thrown in answer E, I could just find the y value at that point and be like, cool, peace out, that has to be it. The problem is that it might not be, right? It might not be a max. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a sign chart for my f prime, right? So I'm going to make an f prime sign chart. The factors are this, right? I start at 0, my only critical point is e, and then I go up till forever, right? My other factor is an x squared. Well, x squared is positive all the time after 0, and before 0, it's just at 0 we have a problem, right? And 1 minus natural log of x. So remember, the short rule here is that if something has a minus in front of the x term, it basically works backwards. So a natural log of x would look like this, which would be negative and then turn to positive, but because there's a negative in front of it, it does the reverse order. It's positive and then switches to negative. That means that f prime is positive and then switches to negative, which means f is increasing and then decreasing. So in fact, this is a maximum. Once I know that, the only possible candidate for the max, right, everything else is lower than that point, is f of e, which would be the natural log of e over e, or 1 over e. And that was one of those answers up there. Answer B. Now, again, you have to be careful because if that critical point had been a minimum, then you would have had to worry about this answer, right? That's mean of them to give you that answer, but it is what it is. Sometimes they do mean things.